Welcome to this episode of The Good, the Bad and the Hammer with your host, Mark and Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
So, this is our 9th entry in our Hammer series we looked at. Funny now, this one is Brides of Dracula, the sequel to Horror of Dracula, which was one of the earliest ones we looked at after the Quatermass stuff. Interesting. Again, directed by Terence Fisher, and I've realised Terence Fisher's directed pretty much all the ones we've seen except for the Quatermass and X the Unknown. So he's fairly prolific in Hammer. So you can kind of see the style, though, can't you? And it's sort of carries through. And it's just not just the direction; it's the art design and the music and stuff like that. So just to recap where we've been so far with Hammer, it's Quatermass, Quatermass Experiment, X the Unknown, Curse of Frankenstein, which was Terence Fisher's, the first one we saw with Terence Fisher, Quatermass 2. Horror of Dracula, Revenge of Frankenstein, Hound of the Baskervilles, and The Mummy. So this is number 9. Okay, what do you think of this one?
I quite enjoyed it. It was really fun.
You know,
to the others.
I've always held this as being the best Hammer Dracula. It felt a bit slower than I remembered it, for sure. Certainly the first half. Before we get to Van Helsing, I feel it dragged a little. But what's your thoughts? There was still some good stuff. But
it was a bit dreary and kind of dismal and pretty, to be honest, boring in comparison to the rest of the film.
Yeah, it was all about this French lady.
Van Helsing arrives, it's like non-stop.
Yeah, it's non-stop. He really goes for it. We get this French school teacher going to like a teaching school in Transylvania, but she somehow gets waylaid, doesn't she, and goes and stays at this place with the Baroness Meinster, who's a funny old lady, whose servant's even funnier. Greta is even funnier. But the old lady is very I've forgotten her name, Miss Havisham, kind of, she's this old lady, kind of like stiff and upright, and she talks in a strange way, and she talks about her son. And this French girl finds out that this young guy's there, and he's kind of locked up, so she feels sorry for him. Because the idea is he's insane, but he's not, is he? He's not that at all. He's a vampire.
No.
Let's talk about the title of this film, Brides of Dracula. Completely misleading.
Nothing to do with Dracula.
Nothing to do with Dracula at all. I think Van Helsing might mention him once, maybe, but this is not Dracula. This is another vampire entirely. Meinster, Baron Meinster, who's played by... I can't remember now. No, I did know his name, but I think it was pretty good. David Peel was the actor. Not bad. Not Christopher Lee, of course.
No.
Outside of Peter Cushing, who do you think gave the best performance?
Probably Greta. To be honest.
Greta was really elite, played by Frida Jackson, because she went from being quite serious and like matronly to being a cackling maniac.
Yeah, she basically turned into what's his name in the actual Dracula story?
Renfield.
Yes.
In the old films, Renfield in the story. Yeah. She was the female Renfield. Funny enough, I did see a play version of Dracula where they cast the Renfield character as a woman, Lady Renfield, and she again was very much like Greta in this, like a cross between Greta and the Baroness. In fact, it was kind of interesting. This film made me think of that. It was kind of cool. We also, very early on, we also get Michael Ripper turns up as a coachman, a very minor role, but we've seen Michael Ripper in almost all the films we've seen so far, and we will keep seeing him. But he only had a small part in this one. There was also a few comedy elements, wasn't there? There was like this doctor that was hanging around with Van Helsing, who was like, he liked to drink and liked to claim the fees if Van Helsing did the work. He says, I don't mind you doing it as long as I get the fees. And he's like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
And there's all that. The French girl, who was Marianne, was played by Yvonne Monlour. I can't recall her in anything else. She looked a bit like Brigitte Bardot. She wasn't a great actress. It has to be said.
Nah.
But okay, acceptable. Let's put it that way. Acceptable.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the actors around her were so good that it kind of showed her
Yeah.
up a bit. You know, the Baroness, Greta, the Baron was a better actor. You know,
Yeah, the Baron was pretty funny because when he like showed up as a vampire, like in his full like cloak and collar and everything, and with the fangs and the red eyes.
Yeah,
he kind of looked like it was very like it was a bit too camp. Like,
yeah, it was a bit. I don't know. It made me think. Not quite this, but something like David Bowie or a rock star, kind of. You know, a glam rock star.
I was thinking like Gilderoy Lockhart from Harry Potter.
Okay, yeah, there was a bit of that. He was definitely a flamboyant. He wasn't a dark sort of man, tall stranger.
This is not a creature of the night.
This was more sort of a teenage Dracula. Well, I know he was older than that, but you know what I mean? It was like a youngster thing. There was that. There was also one, in my opinion, one massive misstep in this film, which was use of prosthetic bat.
Oh, God, yeah.
God, it was bad. I've been watching a few old Universal films, and man, they did the bats better than this. Because at least they did impart in shadow and use silhouettes and didn't focus on the bat. But this was obviously a rubber bat.
Yeah,
Been with a stage hand or whatever, waving it around on a fishing rod and pulling a thing to make its wings flap. It was awful. It was really awful. Interesting this because it was initially it started off as a sequel the sequel started off as a script called Disciple of Dracula, where Dracula was there but mostly only as like an opener, but the rest of the film would be like an underling of the vampire. But they rewrote it and removed any references to Dracula, left Van Helsing in, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And it got this. We come up with this. Interesting. This film is actually featured briefly in the second Matrix movie. You know, they talk about ghosts and vampires and werewolves being anomalies of the Matrix.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of the two white Rastafarian guys are sitting there watching Brides of Dracula. The scene where we see the brides framed in like, you know how they kind of don't do anything near the end and they're just watching stuff. It was that bit, but it looks cool. It looks cool. So this girl goes to this Baroness. She lets out the vampire, and it all kicks off from there, doesn't it? And she runs off into the woods. The old vampire guy doesn't put the bite on her, but he goes off, and she runs off into the wood, faints, and is luckily found by Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so who kind of starts to put things together, doesn't he? Especially when he hears about bites around the village.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes to the grave.
It's kind of funny because he's immediately on it. Like, he literally walks into a funeral and it's like, he's just checking the deck. As like, he starts talking with the vicar about exhuming her after she's like been buried.
Yeah.
So,
apparently, the ending, which I quite like, and we'll come on to in a bit. Originally, they planned that Van Helsing used black magic to conjure up a swarm of bats, which then destroys the vampires, which sounds bizarre. Peter Cushing said, I'm not doing that. There's no one doing that. So saying, well, his reasoning was Van Helsing, the character of Van Helsing, would never use black magic, which sounds right. It sounds right. But they did reuse it in a film we're going to see soon called Kiss of the Vampire. So they did recycle that idea and use it in another script. They apparently there was also a rumor that originally it was going to be Dracula again, and Christopher Lee was going to play it, but no one's quite sure. It's a bit weird.
I mean, it's almost like they called it Brides of Dracula and put Christopher Lee on the poster.
It's so weird. It's quite kind of. There's some nice touches though. Okay, so it's the Van. Let's just move on to the Van Helsing stuff because, like as we say, it's a bit turgid up until then. Right, he gets on the case. He realises this village girl's been bitten, and he goes to the graveyard at night and he tells the vicar about it, who's a bit disgusted But the vicar was the one who was original, or the priest was the one who originally called Van Helsing in, right? Because he knew something was up. So it's a bit. It doesn't quite work because it's like, well, if he was locked up, there wouldn't have been any vampirism. So why did the priest call Van Helsing? You know, there's that kind of deal, right? Having said that,
he mentions the disappearing girls.
Oh yeah. Because the mother, although she keeps him locked up, she has to keep him fed. So she kind of lures girls to the thingy, doesn't she? And he puts the bite in him in his room, presumably.
What's weird is everyone kind of knows what's going on. They know she comes in and like swans off with a girl. Because like when she shows up at the bar, like the bartender and like his wife just are like terrified of her.
Yeah, so. In case she's going to have drag off another girl, presumably, because she's the Baroness, right? So she's in charge of the place. They're probably all tenants of hers and all this kind of stuff. So Van Helsing, the girl who got the bite, he goes to the graveyard and she comes out the coffin. A bat kind of attacks him. And she manages to get away. But what I liked about Van Helsing this is he was kind of properly badass. He wouldn't even have his cross out or have any weapons at all. He'd just rock into places where he knew there were vampires. And there is a cool bit where he's on a coach and he actually dismounts from the coach while it's still moving. Really cool move. Just hops off, kind of.
Yeah.
But it is funny when the vampires see Van Helsing, they run away immediately. They don't.
Yeah.
I'm not tackling him. Even though he hasn't got any. I mean, he does pull out the cross here and there, but he doesn't have it in his hand. If it were me, I would never put that thing down. He's very casual with it. He kind of puts it down.
Yeah, he keeps like sliding it towards him. No, I guess they can't really touch it. So
yeah, it's a cool move. So he kind of nearly tackles this girl in the graveyard, but she gets away. And then we see a girls' school thing. Well, it's the school the French lady's going to be a teacher, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they got this pompous bloke as head of it who says she's not allowed to have callers. And then he says, I'm Dr. Van Helsing. And he goes, well, it's different for you and all this kind of stuff. And then somehow the vampire has a romance with the girl and asks her to marry him, even though he has no intention of marrying her, just wants to bite her, which seems a bit... Why did he bother doing that? I don't know. It's part of the script, I guess. There's some of that. So there's a bit of comedy elements, as I say. There's like that other doctor guy. What do you think of that? Was it fun?
That was weird and like... It was obviously like comedy, but it just wasn't funny. Like,
it was just a bit of character.
There was a weird bit where he was trying to take some sort of like sort out like a cold or something for himself, and he poured all this stuff in a boiling pot of water. I was like, whatever happens, don't like take this towel off my head. Yeah, put the towel over his head and like
he starts screaming, right?
He starts screaming, so they take it off. And it's like, why'd you do that?
And the woman just gets, I've had enough of this. I've got work to do. Yeah. I can't blame her. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on towards the end. Actually, one other thing. There's another young lady who's works. I don't think she's a pupil. I think she works at the school.
Yeah, she works. They say when what's her name shows up that.
She says the Count, doesn't she? The Baron, and she kind of goes, "Oh, he's so handsome. I wish I was his wife and all this." And then he visits her as a vampire and puts the bite on her, doesn't he? So so I guess she's kind of another bride or something. I mean, there's
only really two. So
because the French girl never actually gets bit, does she?
And the other bride doesn't even get named.
Yeah, she just kind of watches on
the credits.
Yeah. But there's the pair of them. Very, they're typical Hammer lovelies kind of thing, well made up, and they wear the sort of low cut dresses, and very Hammer. So it gets towards the end. He goes back. It's a lot of back and forth. He finds the mother, and the mother's been bitten and is a vampire, and he's like, she's saying, "Oh, I'm cursed to live like this forever." And Van Helsing's like, "There is a way." And then it fades out.
Yeah, it fades out, and then it fades back into him like stood there at the morning, And you think, oh, he staked her in the meanwhile. No, he turns around and then stakes her.
And then she's in her coffin or whatever. She's asleep, or dormant. He stakes her then, so we get plenty of like the old red paint that Hammer used for blood and all that. Sorts her out. Greta's still roaming the countryside, giggling like a maniac. She's kind of looking out. Oh, she actually gets involved when Van Helsing's at the graveyard, doesn't she? And kind of disrupts it.
She's doing this weird sort of like therapy thing for the vampire.
She's going, I can't help you. You have to get out.
You need to push.
push. She's like a vampire midwife.
Yeah.
Kind of so that's kind of weird. And I thought it was really interesting, actually. I really quite liked it. It was kind of adding to the lore somewhat. It's almost like the first time a vampire rises is an act of birth kind of thing. Oh, am I reading too much into it? Maybe. I don't know. We get towards the end and there's like, they get to a windmill, don't they, of all things. And basically there's a lot of acrobatic fighting. But Van Helsing gets kind of caught, doesn't he, by the neck and can barely move, and the vampire bites him. So Van Helsing's been bitten. So he's going to become a minion. The old Baron laughs and leaves.
Yeah.
I think he's going to go and get the girl.
Yeah. So, and then Van Helsing does probably the most metal thing that could show up in these films.
Yeah.
He heats up a big, like, I don't even know what it is because it's not poker. It's like
it's like a branding iron.
Yeah. He heats it up, sticks it on his neck where he got bitten, and then douses it in holy water, and that heals him.
Yeah, I mean, he don't care, does he? He wraps one arm round a rope, so he's got something to hold on to, so when he passes out, he doesn't fall to the floor, I guess, and just sticks a red-hot branding iron onto his neck, puts the thing down, there's a massive burn, pours holy water on it, it's all good. He basically cures himself of vampirism, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then he's still fighting after that, and when the head vampire comes back, or when the Baron comes back, thinking he's got a new minion, Van Helsing's there, started fighting him again. It's quite funny. But he's got this thing. We should have mentioned holy water was raised earlier, wasn't it? Because here's the thing of holy water, and which he uses on his neck, but he also then throws it in the vampire's face, doesn't he? And burns the hell out of him while the brides look on. And then the vampire runs out and he's in the shadow of the windmill. And then again, Van Helsing does something pretty metal. He just jumps on the windmill, pulls it around, turns it into a massive cross, and the guy, the vampire, is in the shadow of a cross, right? It just burns up. Yeah, and it ends. And we don't see what happened to the vampire ladies. They're presumably still in the windmill, which is on fire at this point. So it ends. They don't mess about when it's ending, which I always appreciate with Hammer. They kind of just get on with it. So, second outing as Van Helsing, Peter Cushing. And he also rocks his fantastic coat at one point. He's got quite a few really cool
scene,
coats.
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
so.
But I mean, he's got some nice suits as well. He really looks the part as Peter Cushing. So, overall, you like this one?
Yeah.
Did you like it more than horror, or did you like horror better?
I think I preferred horror because that was just like a weird action film.
Yeah. I always thought I liked this better, but you know what? I did miss Christopher Lee, but I think Van Helsing is better in this one. He's really great in the first one, but I think he's even better in this one with all his mad stuff he does. But as the films go, I think I prefer horror Dracula over this a little.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair. On IMDb, it's got 6.7, and on Rotten Tomatoes, it's 71%. What would you give it out of 10?
I'd give it an easy 8, pretty much.
I think I'm going to give it a 9, actually. I really liked the second half. I mean, it really improved. It really improved once Van Helsing appeared, and was solid all the way to the end. I quite like David Peel as the vampire. Not Christopher Lee, but he was okay. But really... and I like Greta too. I think Greta was a great addition to of weird characters. I really liked that. All right. Any last thoughts?
No, not really.
Just to say, great direction. Music was okay. It wasn't quite as good as Horror Dracula, but it was pretty good. It was pretty good. It worked, and it was constant. Art direction was solid. It's just the story was a little weak in the first half, I think. That's all that was wrong with it, really. Yeah, so otherwise I really enjoyed this. So it's our second outing for Dracula. So we've done 2 Frankensteins and 2 Draculas for Hammer, so it's coming along all right. I don't think we've got any of it either for a little while now. I think there's it's all sorts of other Hammers before we get back to those 2, but we'll see. All right then, so bye from me.
Bye.